We are starting our deep dive. Who's we? It's just me here and Master Chief. Starting our deep dive into Vault Tec. We're gonna learn a little bit about the history of Vault Tec because I don't know much about Vault Tec, and we're doing Fallout lore deep dive here. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications. If you want to see me dive into some more lore, into some more anime, doing all the reactions to everything that ever exists in human media, we will see all of the entertainment. Let's go, Vault Tec. No, not Vault Tec. I don't like Vault Tec. Vault Tec bad.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. That bomb has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. With this bomb, we have now added a new and revolutionary increase in destruction. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The force from which the sun draws its power has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East.
Damn. That went hard.
In the back when times, war was coming. Not war like the petty tribal skirmishes.
This guy is straight off of the History Channel, man. What is this voice?
In southwestern Utah and throughout the Midwest. Not war like the clash between the bull and the bear.
History Channel wasn't hiring, so he started a Fallout YouTube channel.
Or the Hoover Dam. Or the power struggles in Boston. Or the occupation of the tattered remains of D.C. They say war never changes. But in spite of all the warning signs, the evaporation of fossil fuels and rampant starvation across the globe, nobody was prepared for the scale of the war that was bubbling under the surface. On October 23, 2077, at 9:47 a.m. Eastern Time, the world cracked open. Nuclear fire rained down from the skies of...
Is this guy real? Or is this an AI voice? I can't tell. Because it sounds too good. He sounds like he's explaining how things are made to me.
Above, as nuclear bomb after nuclear bomb hammered the Earth, the Great War, humanity's greatest and most terrible accomplishment, engulfed the world in a radioactive inferno for just 2 hours, and humanity was wiped out. Well, almost.
That bomb dropped so hard that those trees glitched the fuck out of all of reality.
Humans are the smartest animals on the planet, and while some were using that brain power to
I don't know, I think we're different from the animals. Animals don't talk. Or at least not the same way we do.
Annihilate our species. Others use that power to preserve our species. Rumors circulate of an eccentric billionaire.
They don't build machines.
In Nevada, who predicted that the Great War was inevitable 15 years before the bombs dropped.
15 years!
And spent his fortune preparing for this eventuality. Not only working to preserve himself, but the city he loved,
hey, I recognize
Las Vegas.
That.
He was a laughing stock of his peers at the time. Lambasted and lampooned in all the swanky parties and magazines. But on that day, when 77 warheads came to demolish his city, well, that's a story for another day. For as wealthy and powerful as this billionaire was, his mind was of a singular purpose, and there were other men out there with more ambition. Men whose vision...
Dude, House is one of the coolest villains ever, and I love that you can just side with him and do what he actually wants. You can do his goal, or you can not do his goal. You could shut him down completely. You could replace him. There's so many things you could do. I love it. Fallout New Vegas, one of the bestest. It's one of the greatest games of all time.
Expanded beyond preserving and controlling one tiny corner of a war-blasted country. These men, whose names have been lost so far to the ravages of time, came together to found a company that would inevitably and irreversibly shape the course of humanity for hundreds of years. And this company was Vault Tec.
Try forever, man. Everything after the bombs dropped completely changed the world forever. There's no going back to the way things were. And I'm really curious, like, what it's going to look like 1,000 years after the bombs drop. Like, what would the world be like? Did we get past all this and become something else? I think that'd be a crazy thing to get into. For, like, Bethesda to make a game and just be like, oh, actually, this game that we made that takes place in the future is actually the same universe as Fallout, just 2,000 years later.
If you're listening to this, you've likely seen the handiwork of Vault Tec yourself. They built the vaults, the giant complexes
Yeah, we reacted to all of the vaults, every single one.
constructed out of reinforced concrete, several feet thick, embedded in the sides of mountains or deep underground, and sealed shut with giant steel doors. Either you're one of the lucky, or perhaps unlucky few
I don't think we reacted to every single one, just the ones worth talking about.
who survived the war due to their handiwork. Either that, or you've taken refuge from the savage burn,
I keep saying we like there's more than just me here.
radiation storms inside their halls, or you've seen a stranger wearing a blue jumpsuit with a number on the back out in the wilds. It's not fully known precisely how many vaults were built. Every vault constructed by Vault Tec is
Which is good for the game company who makes it, because they can just have an infinite number of vaults. Forever have video games. Even if it is going to take 20 years for the next one to come out.
numbered, and while our archives are incomplete, records show numbers as high as 118. While only 41 vaults are known at the moment, new records are discovered every day in computers buried under radioactive ash. Some even say there are vaults numbering as high as 700, but official corroborations are unconfirmed, as all known references to vaults higher than 118 are within Vault Tec training simulations. The purpose of the vaults on the surface was simple: to provide a safe haven from the ravages of war for humanity to survive in, so that they may one day return to the surface and reform society.
Honestly, I think there's vaults everywhere. There might be over 1,000 vaults. Because think about how many vaults are in just one little area in every game. There's quite a few vaults. And if you think about if it's like that literally everywhere in the United States, they're just all over the place, there'd be so many. There's 50 states. And how many cities are in every state? How many, like, towns? You know, how many towns? How many vaults are in all the towns, you know? Do all the towns have that? We don't know. Probably.
Unlike the cheaper, single-occupancy Pulaski preservation shelters that dot New England, that did little more than shield you from shrapnel, vaults were to be fully enclosed, self-sufficient towns where tens or even hundreds of people could live. Hydroponics and
I think there's probably a giant vault somewhere out there that's full of thousands upon thousands of people. I would even say like 50,000 people.
UV lamps provided all the vitamins
Why
and
wouldn't there
minerals
be?
you could need by growing fresh produce. Advanced water filters and recycling systems provided fresh water to residents. There were common areas, cafeterias, schools, doctors' offices, and recreation, weapons and construction equipment. Everything a human needs to not only live, but to thrive. Vaults were even to be equipped with a coveted Garden of Eden creation kit, which contains all the seeds, fertilizer, and equipment one would need to restart society once the earth above cooled to a dull radioactive glow. This mandate to preserve humanity against the onslaught of nuclear terror was encapsulated in Vault Tec's corporate slogan, revolutionizing safety for an uncertain future. Construction costs for one vault cost over $500 billion pre-war dollars, and entry into them wasn't cheap. Exact costs of entry are unknown, but waiting lists were long, and many occupants had to win a lottery to get in, or be a service member of the armed forces. The founding members of Vault Tec were among the few to see the inevitable on the horizon, and they took action to both profit and take control of the ever-rising tensions and fear of the coming apocalypse. And while most people were skeptical, many embraced the perception of safety that Vault Tec offered them, a safe haven away from rad scorpions, super mutants, and rabid dissident tribes. The vault wait lists filled up with names of people looking to preserve themselves, and Vault Tec gladly took their money, but they were all of them deceived for lurking under that friendly motto, revolutionizing safety for an...
Do not trust corporations. They do not have your best interest in mind. Whatever agenda they have, that's their best interest. And it's usually not good.
uncertain future lay a secret agenda. Vault Tec didn't just want to get rich. They wanted far, far more. And they got it.
Control and power. Ultimate control and ultimate power. The way they want it. And that's why they're going to do a whole bunch of weird experiments like that, because you never know. We might want to change humanity. And you never know what you want to change humanity into if you don't try it.
And thousands of humans who were just looking for a safe place, hopped out of the nuclear frying pan and into the vile, deceitful fire of Vault Tec's claws.
Yeah, you can't exactly do experiments like this while everyone is still alive and while the world is still going. The only way that you can achieve this is by blowing up the world, so nobody can stop you from doing these experiments. You actually have a reason to keep them going underground.
The plan of Vault Tec was not to simply provide a safe haven for humanity to wait out the horrors above ground. Instead, it was to use the vaults and their controlled environments as a canvas upon which to run a series of experiments, some seemingly innocuous, and others downright evil by the judgment of any religion known to man. While there were a few vaults known as control vaults that actually held up to Vault Tec's advertising, the vast majority of vaults existed solely to test the limits of the human psyche, human sociology, and human physiology.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was like what Vault Tec was actually trying to achieve, or if there was just evil forces in Vault Tec and it got out of control and they didn't know everything that was going on. That's like a lot of times when corporations are evil, that's what happened. It's not that the corporation itself was trying to be evil. There were just evil forces that got in and started doing stuff behind the scenes of all the people that were, trying to do just regular work. And sometimes things are just inevitable and they end up just getting worked on because they exist. And if somebody's not going to work on it, somebody else will.
In fact, Vault 15, the most famous vault in America, the vault whose inhabitants created the settlement Shady Sands, where one day President Tandy was born, who later went on to found and strengthen the new California Republic, was one of these experimental vaults designed to test the limits of humanity's tolerance for cohabiting with people of violently opposing ideologies. The vault was populated with political and religious extremists, and while some of these residents went on to do incredible things in Shady Sands and the NCR, the vast majority of residents gave in to the darker urges and formed three gangs: the Vipers, the Jackals, and, most infamously, the Cons. And they went on to cause trouble for citizens and tribes.
Yeah, I don't really know if the Cons really counts as a gang at this point. I think they're more of like a war cult.
In the western United States for generations. Compared to this experiment, though, a relative success, the other experiments conducted by Vault Tec were pointlessly cruel, bordering on insane. While our records are incomplete, and new details are coming in every day from uncovered archives, this is what we know so far. Of all the regions in our databases, the most complete information comes from the southwestern United States, which makes sense because, well, I'll get to that another day. While the vaults were created with the presupposition of safety from radiation and nuclear fire, Vault 12 had a different plan entirely: to test the effects of radiation on live test subjects.
Man, I hope we get some new lore for Vault Tec and like some future Fallout stuff. I hope we get some like small games, and Fallout 5, I really hope that it just adds more to the lore and builds upon what's already there, and is not just going to add a whole bunch of new stuff that nobody cares about. I want the old lore, but more of it.
Seal and safe vault door model number 343 in this location was designed with a fatal flaw: it wouldn't close properly. As a result, radiation from the outside in the form of irradiated ash and dust crept into the vault over time. Luckily, or perhaps unluckily, the inhabitants survived, in a sense. They transformed into ghouls, half-dead, half-living byproducts of radiation that resemble zombies from the old pre-war moving pictures. Most of them retained their sanity and went on to found Necropolis, the city of the dead, in Southern California. The residents of Vault 13 weren't so lucky. Information is sparse, but records say that the vault was meant to stay closed for 200 years in order to study the results of human isolation. This didn't quite go to plan, however, as the water chip installed in the unit was rated to only last a few decades, requiring replacement sometime in the 2160s. Rumor has it, a certain vault dweller was selected by Vault 13's overseer to retrieve a replacement chip once several others failed to locate one, which they did, but not before getting dragged into a conflict with the super mutants and their master, which is, well, let's not get off track. Not much is known about the resident of Vault 13 after the conclusion of the war with the Master, but rumors circulate that they were personally responsible for saving the life of President Tandy of the NCR, and were later banished from Vault 13, and later went on to found the city of Arroyo, and sired another influential wastelander who went on to do great things. Scavengers in the area say they saw vertibirds and heard gunfire near the entrance to Vault 13 years later, but little more is known about the fate of those residents. Vault 19 was among the more simple experiments into human psychology.
Yep, they 100% they died.
What happens when you arbitrarily divide people into two separate but equal groups?
They kill each other.
Unfortunately, like many Vault experiments, we have no answer to this question. Extraction of local terminal entries implies that tensions between the two groups were high, and paranoia was rampant among the occupants. It's unknown what effect the subterranean sulfur caves and their gases may have had on the residents, but most of the data, aside from several paranoid ramblings, are corrupted. As of now, the vault is completely unoccupied and appears to be abandoned, and as a result, makes a great potential hiding place for men on the wrong side of the lawman. The last vault in the West we have information on is the most tragic. Vault 11 was designed to test the wisdom and dedication to morality of mankind when given the most extreme incentive. Every year, a new overseer was elected by the vault residents. However,
we've talked about this one
every other
times.
vault in the United States, this overseer wasn't in charge of the day-to-day operations of the vault. Instead, they had one purpose: to die. Every year, one person was chosen to be killed. Residents were meant to do this, or else face total annihilation.
It's funny, one person was chosen to be killed, and as soon as they get rid of the system that chooses one person to be killed, they all get killed. They just kill each other.
Eventually, however, the residents decided they'd had enough, and after many, many years of sending friends, loved ones, and neighbors down to be sacrificed, they decided they'd rather die than kill another resident.
Which is
Upon choosing mercy
weird.
for the overseer, the vault played a pre-programmed message congratulating the residents on their fortitude in the face of adversity. They were
they knew that everybody was just gonna eventually kill each other.
Spared and never had to kill anybody for all those decades. The weight of this revelation was too much for the residents of Vault 11, and all but one man killed themselves rather than face the horrors of what they'd done.
Well, they didn't really kill themselves, they killed each other and themselves.
As was all too common with Vault Tec's experiments on the psychology of mankind, Vault 11 left no survivors.
Too bad.
Our records for the rest of the West and Midwest are incomplete.
Or maybe it was a success. You never know with Vault Tec. They're fucked up and evil.
But moving over to New England, the malice of Vault Tec continued into the higher-numbered vaults, with vaults like Vault 101, which were meant to test both how people would thrive under a dictatorial overseer and for extended times of exclusion, with the vault commanded to stay shut for an eternity. There are rumors that this vault has in fact opened more than once even, and that some of its residents have left to do great things in the capital wasteland of DC, but the exact exploits of this individual are unconfirmed. Vault 92 served as a testbed for what was called subliminal suggestion. The vault was populated with world-renowned musicians who were subjected to constant white noise with implanted suggestions. Instead of creating an army of super soldiers, however, these experiments created an army of madmen who eventually murdered all of the other residents in the vault. Nobody in the vault survived this riot.
That's how it
goes, the halls of the vault
you start fighting each other. and fighting amongst yourselves, then you're all just going to end up dying.
As a testament to the
Every time.
failures of Vault Tec, although it's reported that it makes an
Yeah, failures of Vault Tec, unless this is exactly what they wanted.
excellent
Which is
place
what I
for
think.
mirelurks to nest. Vault 95, meanwhile, was populated entirely with drug addicts, save for one
damn.
lone Vault Tec employee. At first, things went well, and through collective group therapy and rehabilitation, all of the residents kicked their addictions. But 5 years after the vault was sealed,
They kind of had to, though. Like, there wasn't really a supply of drugs.
a hidden cache of powerful drugs was unlocked.
Of course.
Chaos erupted in the vault, with all residents either succumbing to overdoses
Yep.
or to the fists and bullets of their drug-addled friends. There's nothing there but dust now.
Yeah, that was just a fucked up experiment that Vault Tec wanted to do. It's like an evil kid grew up and just had the power to do whatever he wanted with his playthings, with his toys.
Vault 75 could be summarized in one word: eugenics. All vault residents over the age of 18 were
Oh, yeah.
executed by Vault
Talked
Tec
about
staff,
this one.
while the children were subjected to vicious tests and torture. This is all we know, as with most vaults, the records have rotted away and the residents are gone. Maybe it's better that way. These are just some of the most documented and most horrific experiments conducted by Vault Tec. But
That was one of the most dry sneezes that I've ever had, and it kind of hurt a little bit. I'm surprised my nose isn't bleeding.
dozens and possibly hundreds of other vaults are out there in the wastes, tempting all manner
Dude, I think there might be thousands. I think they're going to keep going up, maybe even straight up to 10,000.
of wastelanders with promises of unspoilt goods from the time before the bombs dropped. But be warned, many of these vaults remain as unsafe now as they were the day they were created. There's rumors of vaults out there that still contain people from before the Great War, frozen in cryogenic storage.
I can't wait to get a Fallout game where it's like, okay, we found where the final vaults are and we're going to explore them. That'd be a really cool idea for a game.
To test the limits of human preservation. Vaults filled with vicious super mutants as a remnant of long-forgotten pre-war government experiments, or even a vault rumored to contain dozens of virtual reality computers, where the residents want for nothing and live in peaceful tranquility in a perfect virtual world. We don't know why Vault Tec betrayed public trust. Some say it was to find the limits of human psychology, sociology, and physiology, so that they could leave this scorched earth for the stars above. Or maybe it was pure malice or hubris created by those driven mad at the prospect of life as they knew it being
Yeah, you know what'd be crazy? One of those VR experiments where they're stuck in the experiment, but they know that they're in a VR experiment and they can't do anything about it and they can't leave and they just keep getting put in these crazy, psychotic, terrible scenarios. That'd be fucking awesome. I want that to be a thing.
under threat from nuclear annihilation. Whichever the case, the vaults exist, with reports pouring in every week of new ones. The most recent batch out of what used to be known as West Virginia, where it said there are thousands of super geniuses that roam the wastes looking for glory. If you're hearing this message, be careful. The creators of Vault Tec may be dead, but their legacy is still alive. Some even say that Vault Tec has ties to remnant pre-war government agents, a faction known as the Enclave, the patrol.
I think a lot of the people that were involved with Vault Tec before the war are probably still alive. They probably have means to keep themselves alive. Other, like, random people throughout the Fallout universe are able to keep themselves alive in the craziest ways. Like, I at least I could see them writing that in.
The wastes occasionally in advanced power armor never before seen, abducting wastelanders for testing purposes, never to be seen again. But that is a story for another day.
Well, all right, man. There you go. The story of Vault Tec. Vault Tec is fucking crazy and evil and started this whole thing pretty much, probably, maybe. I think they did. I think it was them and probably a bunch of other evil corporations and organizations and governments all just kind of doing a bunch of evil shit at the same time, and a whole web of disgusting bullshit, and it just caused the war to happen and all the bombs to drop. That's probably the best explanation. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications if you want to see me react to more lore, more anime. You gotta do it. You gotta do it, I'm telling you. We do great things here, fun things.